Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a new guest and a returning guest. If you listen to my show, you'll know the name Adam Gorightly. I've had him on. It was amazing. It's 4 years ago for an excellent book that I read 4 years ago over COVID. And that book that we discussed was Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks, UFO Disinformation in the Age of Aquarius. Excellent book. Has great reviews. But it came to my attention that they also did a documentary. I wasn't aware of it. Been busy with other things, but a documentary. You'll see the cover poster if you're watching this on one of my three YouTube channels, X or Rumble or Rockfin. You'll see the kind of poster for it. I think it has a lot of interesting characters in here. See the poster for the Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks documentary, which was released January 22nd. So I will put a link to the documentary. It is only at one specific site, which is the full name of the documentary.vhx.tv. So go check it out there and support your independent filmmakers and creative people like that. Well, Adam has a long history. He was on with Visigoth, who sadly passed away last year in January. And I published a couple of the old interviews he did with Visigoth, I think On the Grassy Knoll or Beyond the Grassy Knoll. So he's written many, many books in addition to Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks. One that I have an actual manual copy, which I read, which was great too, is The Shadow over Santa Susana, Black Magic, Mind Control, and the Manson family mythos. So check that out. I think the one that I posted, the interview that's on William Ramsey Investigates, is about, I think, Carrie Thornley or no, it was King Kill 33, I think. But this book is Caught in the Crossfire, Carrie Thornley, Oswald and the Garrison Investigation. There's also The Prankster and the Conspiracy. That's the one that I posted. The story of Carrie Thornley and how he met Oswald and inspired the counterculture, which Carrie Thornley's story really is unbelievable, but real. Another of his books is Happy Trails to High Weirdness, a conspiracy theorist tour guide. The Best of Adam Gorightly, Who's Who in the Manson Family. A is for Adamski, The Golden Age of the UFO Contactees. So it's had a lot of great books. So go check out Adam Gorightly. But the new guest is Chris Graybill, who was involved in the making of this documentary. I've been speaking all day. I've been streaming all day. So I'm kind of tired, but it really is the right time to do this. So thanks everybody for showing up, and thank you, Adam Gorightly and Chris Graybill, for joining us. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, William. I didn't realize it had been 4 years. Didn't seem that long, but thanks for having me on again.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So for people who haven't heard Adam or Chris, maybe you guys can talk, Adam, about your book, Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks, and then what led to the creation of this documentary.
Yeah, so that was 2021. That was published, and it deals with the whole Paul Benowitz affair that had to do with a disinformation campaign, have you, that was targeted Paul Benowitz and had various characters involved in that story, names your listeners might be familiar with. The ufologist Bill Moore, the infamous Richard Doty, and whole cast of characters. But the long story short, Benowitz, he was a scientist, physicist, operated a business that he started in the 70s called Thunder Scientific, that was located outside of Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he had an interest in UFOs and started seeing UFOs over Kirtland Air Force Base. And that kind of started the whole quote unquote Benowitz affair, where he started filming and photographing these things. And they were over a sensitive area at Kirtland where they were doing at the same time a lot of testing of experimental secret aircraft and other gizmos and such. And anyway, Benowitz started talking about the strange stuff he was seeing there, and contacted the Air Force security folks, let them know what was going on, what he was seeing. And of course, they took him in and talked to him, and did not discourage his belief that what he was seeing was extraterrestrial UFOs. In fact, went on to encourage those beliefs, and according to some of the stories, actually concocted fake alien scenarios and different hoax documents to lead him further on and ultimately discredit him. And as I said, he was a victim to this disinformation campaign that ultimately drove him off the deep end. So that, in a nutshell, is part of the story that I tell in Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks.
Right. So that book came out. It's got great reviews. I just thought it was fascinating, the whole story of Benowitz and this kind of downward spiral. That happened in 2021. And then how did this project, the documentary, come together?
I read Adam's book after searching around for other, like a UFO story, because I wanted to make a UFO movie. And a friend recommended me his book, and I read it. And I had just found a whole bunch of, I was living in Japan at the time, and I had just found a whole bunch of Nippon TV old UFO documentaries from like the 80s and 90s. And it had like all of the characters that were in Adam's book. And then someone turns me on to the book, and I'm like, oh, this is like weird coincidence that it kind of mirrored the films that I was watching. So yeah, so I was really intrigued, like there was a ton of footage for all this stuff. And then I was thinking like, well, if I could find something new to bring to the table with the Benowitz, like some new footage or something that hasn't been found yet. And so I found some audio of Benowitz that is in the film. And that kind of set me on the course of like, okay, I'm going to make this. And so I reached out to Adam, and he was totally on board. And yeah, that kind of was the main.
That's how it started, right? So, yeah. Chris, this isn't your first project too. You've done other projects in the past, right?
Oh yeah, I've like worked on like hundreds of animated films, and I worked on a couple of other documentaries. So yeah.
This is not your first rodeo. So you guys got together and actually went on site, correct? You guys got out there to New Mexico.
Yeah, we did.
Can you talk about that?
Let's see. So Adam came down to LA where we filmed Greg Bishop. And then that was like super intense, 3-hour in the heat with all my lights set up. And then we made a road trip out to Dulce. On the way to Dulce, we stopped by Farmington, where there was a supposed flying saucer crash, but we couldn't find anything.
Supposedly it was, according to some sources, where the Aztec saucer crash happened. But the more you look into that, there's different people who wrote books about Aztec, and I think the site we went to check out was somebody who'd written a book in the last couple of decades and decided just to put his own monument out somewhere that got torn down at some point. So who knows how.
Do you guys drive by the Shiprock too on the way to Farmington? The infamous Shiprock, the rock in the middle of nowhere.
Ooh, I don't know this.
Yeah, that's good land. I mean, that whole northern part of New Mexico is.
We did go by a giant crater it was just massive. That was really fun.
Oh yeah,
there's awesome. One right on north of. It's called Shiprock, and it's south on with that freeway there, which is 515. So if you come east-west, if you drive east-west, you might have seen it unless you drove at night. But I think
we were taking we were kind of up really northern
Okay.
New Mexico too. So we might have been off the beaten path of highways.
It's a haunted kind of spooky area at times, I think, that northern New Mexico. My
Cool.
opinion.
Yeah, and we actually went out to Dulce and you know, took some B-roll and of the actual spot supposedly where the Dulce base is located. So we got around quite a bit to different sites, and you can see that on the Substack. Chris is starting to post some stuff that didn't make it into the film. That's kind of the design behind the Substack we started, and we also started a podcast. And I think Chris posted the first episode today. So,
what's the title of the podcast?
Same title.
Same Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks
podcast. And the design behind it is, we filmed a lot. We interviewed a lot of people, and of course, a lot went onto the cutting room floor because we just ultimately didn't have room for it, you know. So,
right. And it's already 2 hours, right? So it's a fairly
right.
It is pretty epic, yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of like I said, the design behind this to feature all the other stuff, because there's a lot of cool interviews and stuff we did that didn't make it into the film. So we'll just repurpose those for this podcast.
Gotcha. So you got more content. That's great.
Tons of content.
It's
so. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please continue.
I was going to say, when we got to Albuquerque, Norio Hayakawa, who we interviewed for the film, he was really nice and like took us all around these different spots in New Mexico or in Albuquerque, and he took us by the Benowitz house, which maybe his wife was still living there. I'm not really quite sure, but it was funny because it was kind of, we were not supposed to be there, so I couldn't really film too well there. So I did get like some stills and a little footage, but that was interesting to be at that site, you know, and right across from Kirtland.
Right, the Air Force Base. You get a chance to go by Zorro Ranch.
Oh my God!
Just kidding.
No.
There might be an active investigation there now. But yeah, don't say, for people who don't know, it's right at the border of southern Colorado, right? Right up, kind of it's pretty sparsely populated, right? But Benowitz lived in Albuquerque, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. As you'll see, actually, folks will go on that our Substack there. You'll see, like Chris was saying, his townhouse and where he could actually look into Kirtland Air Force Base in Monsanto Mountain. That's where he was seeing all the UFO activity, or whatever he was seeing is most likely experimental aircraft. So I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, he and his business, Thunder Scientific, was also right at the gate of Kirtland Air Force Base. And his business, he was this kind of scientist, physicist, mad scientist guy, created different instruments for aircraft, avionics, altimeters, that type of stuff. But when he got into the whole UFO thing, he started devising all these other instruments to pick up what he believed were alien beams and signals and all of this type of stuff, when in reality, at least according to some sources, what he was picking up were different, like spy satellites and other things they were working on at Kirtland Air Force Base during this period, which is why, the government wanted to kind of derail what he was seeing, or at least confuse him and make him believe that they were all this stuff he was witnessing was actually alien craft, and not these, like, this was the whole period when the stealth bomber was being developed and a lot of this other stuff.
Right. So Kirtland, I believe, is where is it located in Albuquerque? Is it the one that's southeast of the downtown Albuquerque? Is that right? It's like a huge base, right?
Oh yeah, it's huge,
north-
and it's adjacent to the airport. Actually,
right.
is right up against it, and that was part of the larger story that during this whole Benowitz period when he was monitoring all this stuff, the airport lost power and communication like for several hours one day. I mean, we're talking 7 or 8 hours, and it was most likely on account of something that was they were testing at Kirtland that made everything go haywire.
Yeah, so high tech stuff going on in New Mexico.
Totally, yeah.
The so you guys filmed there. You had Norio Hayakawa, who's also kind of a known UFO expert, right? Is he in the film?
Yes, yes, yeah. He was the what we deal with in the film is a lot of what was going on in the 1980s with these revelations of Kirtland Base, which were kind of a spin-off of the Benowitz affair. And that's when these stories about Area 51 emerged. So a lot of the characters that were prevalent on the scene during that period we talked to, such as Norio Hayakawa, who spent a lot of time out. He was with the group, a citizens group that were protesting how they were during that period keeping people out of Area 51, where a lot of the same things going on at Kirtland was happening there. And a lot of these groups were trying to figure out what exactly was going on. And so we also talked to just a number of people. David Perkins, who was had a long history in researching cattle mutilations in the Dulce area, and Christian Lambright, who was involved in the Benowitz affair, and a whole number of people. Also, the characters like Bill Cooper were involved in this scene during the late 80s, along with John Lear, kind of pushing these emerging stories concerning what was going on at Dulce Base with purportedly, supposedly, there was a treaty with the government, with the aliens, and they had the secret base there where they were basically creating these alien human hybrids, and all these stories that later kind of inspired, influenced, the stories we saw in X-Files in the by the mid 90s.
Right, that whole area is kind of exiled. Where was Bill Cooper? He was headquartered somewhere around there. Was he in Arizona or New Mexico?
He was in Arizona for a long time. Yeah.
Right. So that's also the land of the cattle mutilations. Really, is actually that northern New Mexico area, if I remember correctly. There's a lot there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big part of the story as well, because that's something that's one of the things that got Benowitz interested in UFOs were the cattle mutilation and the tie-in to the mutilations that were going on during that period, which were also all these researchers and investigators were trying to find out what was the connection here going on with all of these. Was it similar to what was going on at Kirtland, where the government was happy to have people believe that it was ETs that were being seen or over the base, as opposed to secret aircraft? And the same, could be you could attribute that to the cattle mutilations, that they were happy to point people in the direction of ETs being responsible for the mutilations. But once again, there was the prospect that it was connected to some type of secret government project going on during that period.
Right. And for people who don't know who Greg Bishop is, who's Greg? Because you guys were there talking to him too, right?
Yeah. He is the author of really the first book on the Benowitz affair, Project Beta, which I would also highly recommend for anybody who wants to take a deep dive into the story.
Gotcha. So he was an integral part of the film too, right?
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, he was really one of the biggest key parts to telling the story, I feel like.
Kind of keeping you guys informed and talking to that. Did you guys get a chance to go to any of the other UFO sites while you guys were on the road?
Where do we were mainly just hitting stuff that had to do with the story, so we didn't stray too far from that.
Kirtland, Dulce. So, and the other thing is like this person that was in this story who pops up still, I think, is Richard Doty, right? Can you talk about him?
So, yeah, Richard Doty was with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations there at Kirtland. And yeah, it's a pretty involved story, but also involved was a ufologist, investigator, author. Bill Moore wrote the book on the Roswell incident. And so how the Doty and Moore got connected with Benowitz had to do with an incident where this mysterious character who Moore has referred to as Falcon, a code name over the years, allegedly a high-level CIA agent, came in contact with Moore around this period. We're talking 1980, after he had published his book on Roswell, and struck up a deal with him. Moore was prominent in UFO circles at that time. He belonged to a group called APRO, the Aerial Phenomena Research Association, which was investigating UFOs in the Southwest. Anyway, the government, the spook types, approached Moore and offered him a bargain. If he would keep track on people in ufology and report back to them, working as an informant, they would, in trade, give him access to top secret information related to UFOs. And during that period, much more so than today, a lot of the folks involved in the different UFO groups were also these guys who were civilian contractors and who worked on, different, like some of the stealth projects and these type of things during this period. And at the same time, you had that different UFO conventions where you had these civilian contractors interested in UFOs. You had spies from the Soviet Union and China showing up upon occasion.
Wow.
And so that was kind of what the interest was in people in ufology, and contacts Bill Moore had. He had some various contacts in the Soviet Union, is to basically find out who these spies were, and pass on to them bogus information. And that's where a lot of these hoax documents that a lot of moving parts of the story that came out during this period, the MJ-12 documents and the Aquarius documents and all of these things that were connected to Bill Moore and Richard Doty. Doty, kind of, according to the way he tells the story, he was a middleman or proxy behind the high-level spooks. And he was the one that was passing Moore a lot of these supposedly super secret documents, a lot of them that ultimately turned out to be hoax documents, like the MJ12 papers that basically confirmed the Roswell crash, which was kind of convenient because Moore had written a book about the Roswell crash a couple of years before these documents surfaced. And so, it's a very convoluted story that, and we
I
don't
mean,
know all the answers. Who was involved with was Bill Moore actually concocting some of these documents? Were Moore and Doty working together? Was basically Moore a dupe who didn't know anything? I have my suspicions, but we still, after all these years, really don't have the answers to all the pieces of the puzzle.
right. I mean, it really is a complex thing. And one of the things that I think people would be surprised about is that how many intel and military people are around at least this particular case, if not the UFO movement in general. Would you agree with that?
Well, of course, yeah. You've been, and I talk about it throughout the book. It's kind of the same cast of characters that keep reappearing over the decades, that, dating back to the likes of Hal Puthoff back in the early 70s with project at Stanford Research Institute, where they were doing experiments in remote viewing for the CIA. And he's another one of those guys who turns up in all these stories I talk about in the book, all the way to current day with, at least this last decade with To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge, and once again pushing stories of Roswell and flying saucer crash retrievals. I believe they're all connected,
Um,
and
what
go ahead.
I was going to say, going back to the Farmington thing, I think the reason that we actually went there, just to switch gears for a second, was because in your book, Adam, there's a great chapter called Crash Goes the Saucers, and it goes into the Aztec crashed saucer, which we found in this case was in Farmington. And it was the story was put out like in the 1950s by this guy Frank Scully, who wrote Behind the Flying Saucers, and he was actually being fed this stuff by this guy named Silas Newton, who had been just telling the stories to him, and then he wrote it into his book. Am I getting this right, Adam?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so it turns out this guy Silas Newton, it really lays out all of the tropes from the crash saucer, like the little people, little aliens were found, near the body or near the saucer, and what are some other, like the meta metals or metamaterials? I think that was part of this story too. Back in, it's like really early on in the 50s. So
And they the same story that later cropped up in Roswell. They cordoned off the area and brought in military that hauled off the spaceship, or the remains of the spaceship, and took it to Wright-Patterson Air Base. And
right.
also connected to that was that they had one of the aliens survived, and they had it in captivity. And all of these stories got recycled into Roswell and the Benowitz affair.
But the guy that basically started that story was Silas Newton, who turned out to be this like serial con man. He was like making fake what do you call it? The oil. He was like a fake oil man or something.
Oh.
And he had all these cons, to make cash, and this was just like a part of that.
This was just another one of his kind of money-making schemes.
Right.
Interesting. The do you ever come across Bannister? Wasn't he involved in one of the early not Bannister. What's the guy's name from the JFK, the FBI agent?
Well, yeah. Guy Bannister.
Guy Bannister, that's his name. That's right.
You are correct. He does come up in ufological history in a kind of an odd way. Bannister was connected allegedly to the JFK assassination. He was a longtime FBI guy, and retired from the FBI and had this was a private investigator. During the JFK assassination, he was connected to anti-Castro Cubans, and Garrison alleged he was just part of this nexus of rogue CIA agents like David Ferry and the anti-Castro Cubans. But, he was also involved in the early days of UFOs in 46, 47, that period. I believe he was in Wyoming. And it was right after the Kenneth Arnold sighting, which was like 19 June of 47. And there was this whole flap of UFOs right after that, kind of sparked something for the next couple weeks. If you go go to newspaper.com, look at that period, there's this flap, and that's when the Roswell crash happened. But there was also this outbreak of small saucers that people were finding across the country. And in most cases, it looked like stuff that kids built and planted or launched, and concerned people were, the flying saucers were in the air. So you had this whole slew of these different small saucers. Some looked like they were made by like cymbals from a drum, these type of things. And so that's where Bannister comes into the story. He actually investigated one of these small saucers that were most likely, from what I could tell from all the reports, were just kind of hoaxes that people were building these, and there was quite a few stories of these small discs that got reported during this period, and that's Banner was Bannister's
that's
role.
Him, yeah, he was like there was one pre Roswell. There was some kind of like disc craze, so the UFO stuff goes back pretty far. Yeah, pretty wild. So you have a new podcast. It's people can find it at the sponsors Spooks and Kooks Substack, right?
Yep, right.
So that's it. And then the film, people I'll put a link to it. It's Saucer Spooks and Kooks at .vhx and TV. Is there anything else in the film that you like to cover, or anything I missed, and what else can people expect to see in the documentary?
We kind of go into the the last decade of UFO history that's happened, and that was kind of one of the big things that I wanted to do is put into context everything that's been happening, in the new UFO story, and in juxtaposition that with the old UFO stories from like the 80s and 90s. And so to have that historical context, the picture of the UFO story comes much clearer, I felt like. So we cover Skinwalker, right? TTSA, Bigelow dealings. David Grush is not in. He's in the film, but we don't really cover
him.
Talk.
What's your take on the TTSA, To the Stars Academy?
Well, in the film, Greg Bishop, says it was kind of just like a cog in a wheel. I think he used that term. So kind of just like a stepping stone to get to a different place in whatever kind of story they're trying to put out. I mean,
is it still intact?
I think it is on some level. I think he's put out, or Tom DeLonge's put out a film maybe last year. I haven't really followed it too closely.
Right. Because, I mean, I thought that they were kind of like in financial straits, if I remember correctly.
At one point, yeah, that's true, huh?
Yeah. So people can check out the film. I've played the trailer a few times. Sound off. I'll put the links in there. Is there anything you guys like to add before I wrap it up? It's kind of Friday. I'm gonna run.
What do you think, Adam?
Oh, no, I think we covered it pretty well.
Okay. And people can find your books at your website too. So your website is Adam Gorightly too. This is your website too. And that's the best place to contact you, or the Substack. So I can put links to your website, the Substack, and then the film too as well, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Do you sign your books, Adam? If people can buy them through your website, you send them out?
I can do that sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll just have to contact me at my email.
Gotcha. So, and the website, so you've got places for people to contact you. And again, what we talked about, check it out, guys. 2 hours of information is the document. Check out the book too. Check out Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Go get it. It's got great reviews. I read it. I can vouch for it. But also go check out the movie. It's right here. You can see it. And it's Saucer, Spooks, and Kooks. And the guest is Adam Gorightly. And then his fellow worker on the film, fellow creative, is Chris Graybill, Graybill.
Hey, I have one thing to add there, William. You were talking about Visigoth and how you're starting to you got the archive from
archives. I have 800 or 900 episodes, Adam. So
wow,
I've got a lot there.
Oh my god!
So I might have some you don't have, and I'll look through those tonight. Viz and I actually did our own podcast, maybe a dozen episodes. We gave it different names. One was the Untamed Grassy Knoll, and I'm not sure if you have those files, so I'll look and see what I have. Yeah.
There used to be some on a website. I can't remember what the name of it is now, but the links don't work anymore. So a lot of the old links are gone. So I'm trying to collect. If you have any of his old stuff, send it to me. I really want to find. He did an interview with one of the McMartin women, McGreevy or whatever, Joan Vion. I can't find that one. VEON. Like, it's really an important archive because of all the important people like you who he's interviewed over time. Like, these are still relevant. There's a whole new generation of researchers that just listen to podcasts and really are interested. So it's the archive is active. Like, people do listen to it. I wouldn't say it's like Joe Rogan, but I get thousands of people a month are on there listening to old stuff, your stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all really important, timestamps, and so many great authors that Visigoth really had. His sensibilities, even like at the very kind of beginning parts of the internet, were really good. Like, he really had reached out to people who were writing, I think, what was important stuff. So the archives are 800. I broke it down into 7, so it's easier. 7 different archives, so it's easier to kind of get through, and Adam's in there. So if you send me those old ones, I'd be happy to post them, and it'll help get your name out there. It'll help you sell books, that's for sure.
Cool.
Again, guys, thanks so much for your time. Congrats on the new film, just came out January 2025, and it is a documentary based on the excellent book Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks. So thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, William.
All right, stay there.